Hi, I'm Roscoe and welcome to EV Marketplace, 6:30 on a Wednesday night. Of course, it must be EV night again. Welcome if you're watching live and thanks for being here. And thanks, guys, for watching and everyone else watching live tonight and anyone watching on catch-up later on YouTube or Facebook. Thanks for joining us. This is our used EV show on EV night. Later on, you've got ludicrous feed, but there's been a lot to catch up on in the world of EVs this week. So plenty to watch till then. But right now, it's used EV night. And we've got deals, we've got data, and we've got discovery all about the world of used EVs. And great night tonight, huge night. A couple of guests. We've got Ross De Rango, who's, well, many of you might know Ross. He was stalwart pillar, the bastion of the Electric Vehicle Council. We got to know each other a couple of years ago, and we've had him on the show before, but he left there last year. He's come up with a new idea, and he's pitched this fairly and squarely at those of you who can't charge or don't have the capability to charge off street. So he's been looking for solutions. We love the idea that there's plenty of chargers out there for those that are traveling from A to B. That problem's solved. They're growing in number. But love what Ross was doing in this space. He's got some ideas and wants to share. And he's a true blue EV advocate as well. So look forward to catching up with him. Hey, Ross, welcome. Good to see you again.
Hey, Roscoe, thanks for having me on the show.
It's good to see you. It's been a while, but hey, I want to get straight into it. We're really amazed at what you're doing. Talked to Putnam before about your work with the EV Council, but what was your EV moment? What was your EV aha moment, the first time youth decided EVs were it?
Yeah, so I suppose the first time I got into EVs was with my employer before the EV Council. So I was at NHP Electrical Engineering for about 13 years prior to EV Council. Did a bunch of different things there. For anyone who's outside the electrical trade, NHP is a business that brings in equipment that distributes electricity, circuit breakers, distribution boards, that kind of stuff. Open any switchboard in the country, about one time in three, you'll find it full of stuff labelled NHP.
Yeah.
I was asked in about 2016 to work out what the next big thing was likely to be that was going to really move the needle for the local electrical industry. And so I had a bit of a look around. I thought, from the perspective of a business that manufactures and imports the equipment that distributes energy, it's going to be this thing where we shift away from petrol and diesel and towards electricity for powering our cars. That was my big aha moment. It didn't come out of the car industry. It came out of the electrical industry.
And that's amazing. And I assume you drive an EV now.
Yeah. So we might have a bit of discussion about what qualifies as an EV here. But back in 2017, having made that realization of EVs, how it's going to go, I bought a second-hand Outlander plug-in hybrid, one of the 2014 model, first ones that came in. And I had that for a bunch of years, and it was great. My employer at the time was very happy to provide EV charging for me at work, which was awesome. The round-trip commute was about the battery capacity, which was great. A couple of years ago, that one was getting a bit long in the tooth. I shifted to the model year 2023 Outlander plug-in hybrid at the end of 2023. I've had that for 2.5 years now. And the other car in our household's pure battery electric. It's a Polestar that my wife's had for 3 years.
That's how old's the Polestar?
3 years. So we got that one, where are we? February 2023.
And how's that? Do you get to drive the Polestar? How do you compare them? Like, do you get to drive both?
Oh, yeah, of course. So the reason for having the two, right? I'm a married man with 3 kids in high school. There is a need for being able to move all 3 kids plus their friends, sport, to activities, whatever. We go camping on school holidays fairly regularly. So the reason for the Outlander, rather than something that was pure battery electric, is that my spec list was it needs 4-wheel drive, it needs 7 seats, and it needs the ability to tow. And with that specification list, pure battery electric would have been a mid-range Kia EV9 at about 120 grand, or 90 at about 150. Top spec Outlander was 80, and so it got the gurns. The usage of it for city driving, the Polestar is far and away the better car.
Yeah.
It's more enjoyable to drive in that kind of environment, not least of which it's a smaller car, right? It's easy to park.
Yeah.
Whereas my car, great vehicle and perfect for the core reason we got it, which
Yeah.
was we need to be able to cover the edge cases, not just the city driving.
Yeah.
But yeah, given the choice, if I don't need to go off the beaten track or
Yeah.
move 5 kids from point A to point B, then yeah, it's honey. Can I borrow your car, please? I'm just feeling.
It's a better look, but I know. Look, we talked before about we've taken the decision not to go down the hybrid route for their amazing EV for the marketplace. Again, I can see in the two-car family, it's probably the ideal solution still at the moment. To have the flexibility. Do you drive? Does it drive? If you can, again, comparing them back to back, do they drive in terms of range? Can you get your daily allowance out of electricity on the
Oh
hybrid?
yeah, yeah. So on the plug-in hybrid, the last big trip I did with it was up to Sydney. We took
Yeah.
our EVCS.au solution, which we're going to talk about a bit later, on a
Yeah.
bit of a road trip, and we did a show and tell in Randwick.
Yeah.
To do that, I loaded everything for that show into the Outlander and drove
Yeah.
it up to Sydney, deployed everything, and then a couple of days later drove it all home. So on that trip, we used a bit of petrol, right? Because
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
2,000 kilometre round trip near enough.
Yeah.
Normal day-to-day driving, nameplate is you get about 80 kilometres of range on the battery in the
Yeah.
23 Outlander. I live in Moonee Ponds, work is in Brunswick, and I tootle around the neighbourhood doing various things. So, yeah, my normal daily driving, all electric all the time.
Yeah.
My usual usage outside of trips to Sydney, I'll
Yeah.
put a tank of in that car maybe once every 2 or 3 months.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
80% EV driving at least, excluding things like side missions to Sydney.
Yeah. I'm hybrid curious. Now I've got you. I'm hybrid curious, right? So you still and you plug in the hybrid overnight, right? Mm. Or
Yeah, that's right. So for the last 3 years, our home's got one off-street parking space.
yeah.
We've been charging both cars easily on a single 10-amp power point.
Yeah.
Couple nights a week, I plug mine in. Couple nights a week, Sarah plugs
Yeah.
hers in. That's it. Between us, we do maybe 30,000 kilometres of driving a year, which is pretty normal for a couple of family cars. The recharging, provided you've got a place to park it and you've
Yeah.
got a 10 amp power point at that place.
Yeah.
For most families, that's all they need. If you're an Uber driver, it's a bit different. But if you're an average driver, yeah.
Let's go back a bit. Again, you mentioned the EVC, the Electric Vehicle Council, and what did that role entail? That's where we met, and I know that as the peak body, they did the heavy lifting for a long time for the EV industry in relation to the government policy. Can you tell me a bit more about what happened and what you did there? Mm.
Yeah. So I was there for about 3.5 years, heading up the energy and infrastructure function. Hat tip to Alina Dini, who picked up that work after I departed about a year ago. If anyone's
Yeah.
interested in talking energy infrastructure stuff, the EVC is still there. They're still doing awesome work.
Yeah.
And Alina's leading that team and the function that I was handling back then. The EVC did lots and lots of things. So outside of the energy infrastructure stuff that I was taking care of, the EVC was instrumental in delivering vehicle efficiency standards. We were the second last country in the world to bring in vehicle efficiency standards that move the needle on what mix of cars actually come into the country. And we've just seen the first round of reporting from the
Yeah.
regulator. That scheme is going well.
They're still fighting.
68
They're still
people.
fighting. They're still fighting about it. Yeah, they're still fighting
Oh,
it.
oh yeah, look, so it will remain the case that
Yeah.
there are businesses that have a commercial interest in that scheme being weakened or stopped.
Yeah.
And so you can expect that there will be expenditure of resource and effort to try and slow it down.
Yeah.
That's completely normal to be expected. Nevertheless, the system is working. And it's working as designed. We're getting a bigger mix of vehicles into the market. We're getting
Right.
more choice.
Yeah.
It works in Australia just like it has already worked everywhere else,
Exactly.
except Russia, who I don't think
Yeah.
have a scheme.
It's amazing.
So that's like, one of the big ticket things the EVC did was that.
Yeah.
Another really important one outside of energy was fringe benefits tax. So if
Yeah.
you're buying an EV on a novated lease,
Yeah.
in
Brilliant.
novated leasing, something like 40 or 50% of
Mm.
vehicles that are being bought are EV,
Yeah.
like compared to about 10 or 12%
Yeah.
of new vehicles bought being EV outside of that sector. And so that really shows what happens
Yeah.
when it becomes a more financially attractive proposition.
I know it is. It's brilliant. It's good to see those two again major policies, and I go just harking back to the efficiency standards. Yeah, I know if you have a look at the top Russian selling cars now, they're all Chinese petrol cars, which clearly they're 4 or 5, 6 years old, which could not be sold anywhere else in the world anymore, which they continue to sell as cheaply as possible. And I look at it same sort of way, but similarly, but from the opposite direction, where why were we allowing inferior technology in terms of engines to operate here? Didn't we want better engines? Didn't we want better cars? And yet we were happy. They were happy to argue that they were happy to take inferior engines and older technology. So it's curious from that perspective. I wasn't around when we had the same sort of fight for unleaded to get rid of unleaded petrol, but I imagine it must have been the same stupid fight, right? Mm.
I think wherever you have tens of billions of
Yeah.
dollars tied up in the status quo,
Yeah.
effort will be made to maintain the status quo.
Yeah.
This is like at the level of predictability,
Yeah.
water flows downhill, right?
Yeah.
It's about that predictable.
Yeah. Hey, look, let's not dwell on that because again, some great initiatives that was in the past, but you left there and how did you come up with the idea for the new business? So,
Yeah. So the new business is aimed at solving the challenge of how does a person who parks in front of their home easily charge their EV? We know that about 75% of the Australian population lives in a standalone home or a townhouse and has off-street parking or a garage. So for that 3/4 of the population, this question of how do I charge my EV, it is already a solved problem, right?
Yeah.
There's already a power point in your garage you can plug in. If you want a more powerful charger, you can call your Sparky. Your Sparky will fit you up with something that'll do the job, and you're away.
Yeah.
For people who are in apartments, which is most of the remaining 25%. Yeah. So that 25% that aren't in the first 3/4, most of those people are in units or apartments where some work in the building is going to be needed in order to make it easy for them to charge their car where they live. And there's lots of businesses focusing on that. My contribution to that space was back when I was at the EVC in the National Construction Code. So making sure that if you're building a new apartment building, it's got to be built ready for the retrofit of EV charging. And we're seeing that happening now. The National Construction Code's washed through, and there's lots of businesses. For example, your established companies, JetCharge, EVSE, Origin, the likes of those doing that work. Also startups, people like Alchemy Charge, Knox, Ready Steady Plug, that kind of crowd developing solutions that are bespoke and fit for apartments.
Yeah.
We took a look at the 5% that remain. So that one driver out of 20 in Australia that parks in front of their house because they don't live in an apartment or a townhouse. They live in something like a terrace house in the inner urban areas, and they park on the street. Being a guy that likes electrical safety, I sit on some standards committees, including the one for the wiring rules, doing the current update. We like to see things done safely. We don't want to see people pulling extension leads over the footpath or running an extension lead through a tree or God knows what.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of solutions in the UK with channels and covers, and I mean there's options there, and but it's been explored and some dodgy, real dodgy solutions as well.
Yeah. So I think, look, the DIY ones are really the ones where you're most likely to come unstuck. If someone's pulling an extension lead over the footpath without actually knowing where the risks are, it's pretty obvious that that's not a great idea. So myself and my business partner Dave, developed the VCS1, our first crack at this, which you can see in the photo there.
Let's see a demo, shall we? We'll have a quick look at the demo,
G'day, I'm Ross. I'm here with Dave, my business partner at VCS.au, Vehicle Charging Solutions Australia. We're at Randwick Sustainability Hub today, talking about our new product, the VCS1. The VCS1 is designed to support EV charging for people who don't have driveways and don't have garages. The boom folds up and then swings out over the footpath, enabling easy EV charging without getting in the way of anyone using the footpath. We don't have permission to deploy this in Sydney just yet. We're here to show and tell with the hope of being able to run trials of this in Sydney local government areas next year.
That's brilliant. Really, really fantastic. So you take us into a bit more detail of the origins, the manufacturer. It's an Australian product here.
Yeah, Australian product. So myself and Dave, who I mentioned in that recorded video piece, I'm an engineer. He's an electrician. We've both been doing things in industry for decades.
Yeah.
We sat down together with a concept sketch on a piece of paper at around about this time last year, perhaps January or thereabouts. By May, we had a container full of product ready to go and be installed. Fabrication's local. There's a bit of steel and a bit of aluminium in that one. Those parts that we don't make ourselves, we get done by a local fabricator up in Tullamarine, like second generation family business. Because a lot of this kind of stuff is stuff where the talent to make things still exists in this country. We just need to tap into it because it's our choice to do something that's Australian made, Melbourne made, where we can.
And I read somewhere that your inspiration was the Hills hoist. Was that?
Oh, totally. Yeah. So I am a child of country Victoria. We grew up with the Hills hoist in the backyard, swinging on the thing. Yeah. When we looked at this challenge, we thought, well, what do we need? We need something that goes over the footpath and then goes away. And it swivel like a Hills hoist did? Yeah.
So let's get down to the detail, the mechanics of it. It involves. Tell me what it involves in terms of the unit and then installation.
Sure. So what you see here is a steel post. That's the white vertical piece. And then the crossbar has a counterweight on the right-hand side and an aluminium boom to the left.
Yeah.
Sitting in the middle at that T-junction is a swivel and a hinge. So it can swing around like this, and it can tilt up and down like this. And the movement is balanced by the counterweight. Yeah, so if you jump up and grab it, if you're a bored 15-year-old looking to do chin-ups, what happens is that the boom just comes down, and then when you let it go, it goes back up. And then you go and do your chin-ups somewhere else. And it swivels without being constrained or pinned. So if it blows around in the wind, it might move a little bit, but nothing's going to break because there's no stopping point. Mechanically designed by people who know how to mechanically design things, that being me and Dave.
That's brilliant. So there's a lot more engineering in it than I thought. And installation, again, before we get to the roadblocks or the hurdles of how we get this thing done, how does it get installed and gets connected to the power?
Yeah, that's right. So this product can either be mounted into the ground, so we can either put a hole in the front yard and set a mounting post in concrete and slide into that, or we can mount it to the front fence with a receiver that goes up to the fence post. Which one we do really just depends on the preference of the customer and the state of the front fence. If the front fence isn't going to handle it because the front fence is a bit wobbly, then we don't attach a big steel thing to the front fence. In terms of power, people can use a 10 amp mode 2 charger over this one. So the standard plug into the 10 amp power point, put 150 Ks of range into your car overnight kind of bizzo. If people want a fast charger, that's fine too. A 7 kilowatt, 32 amp single phase charger can go on the front wall of the house, and the cable can run from there across the front yard, up the post, across the boom, and then down to the car. Either one really depends on, does the customer actually need or want the higher power charge?
Yeah, and that's so again, you could tailor that either way. So you could either have a normal PowerPoint style with a long extension, using this as the articulator, to a PowerPoint on near the front of the house, or you could have a proper charging box like you'd be more familiarly see in a garage or something like that, and plug a CSS cable into that as well, or.
Yeah. So it's either, in either case, it's a 15 metre cable. So if it's plugging into a 10 amp power point, we supply the Mode 2 charging cable that is 15 metres long. That's up to the latest IEC standard. We don't like to use extension leads with these things. There's a few good technical reasons for that we go to in our website. And then again, if the customer wants a more powerful solution, 7 kilowatt socket outlet charger goes on the front of the house, and the 15 metre cable we supply is type 2 to type 2. So it goes from the AC socket outlet of the charger to the AC inlet of the car, up the post and across the boom.
Again, without getting too technical, is that about the limit, 15 metres of an extension cable for a EV charger? Mm.
We've gone to 15 metres because the sorts of places where we're installing this, like the target customer is a person who is in an inner suburban area and parks in. These places don't usually have very wide footpaths or very wide nature strips. They also don't typically have very large setbacks from the front fence of the house. So we find that we've only, I think, had one that we've run across where the 15 metres was not sufficient. And it wasn't so much a problem with the 15 metres, it was that the front of the house had a footpath and then it had a bidirectional cycleway. So this 100 metres of concrete sitting in front of the house before you got to the nature strip. We're very sorry. We're not going to clothesline a cyclist. We can't deploy this here for you.
No, we're supporters of cycle lanes, by the way, as well. We're not anti-cycle lane. Sarah, thank you. We're not anti-cycle lanes. No,
us too, right? Big believers in active transport. The best,
any form of transport.
People get public transport or bikes, but in that occasion, we were able to help that customer.
Electric trams, everything, electric trains, everything electric. No, I was thinking from the technical perspective, where is there a limit, physical limit as to how long a charging cable can be without starting to lose power?
Yeah, sure. So definitely there's standards that govern the products. From a physics limit, if you go longer with a copper cable, you get voltage drop across the length of the copper cable, and that will ultimately be the challenge. If you want really long cable runs, you need heavier gauge copper to carry that. So it would be technically possible to make a much, much longer charging cable and it would work. But in addition to being more expensive on account of being longer, it would also be more expensive on account of being thicker copper, and it would be heavier to lift. We haven't had a need to go beyond 15 metres, so we haven't explored the options past that length.
So simple electrical physics is more power, thicker the cable.
Yeah, that's right. And again, it's about voltage drop. If you've got a cable of a given length will have a given resistance, that gives you voltage drop. If you have a longer cable and you don't want the voltage to drop, then the copper's got to be thicker in order to prevent that being a problem.
That just simply explains why the DC charging cables are like a hose on a petrol bowser and not the extension cord at home. Yeah.
Dealing with 100 kilowatts, you definitely need more copper than when you're dealing with 2.5 or 7. DC charging cables, that's fascinating. Like there's DC charging cables that have liquid cooling that run up and down the cable in order to wick the heat away, in order that you need only an amount of copper that is still possible to lift. DC charging cables, that's their own beast and their own game.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm going to pick your brain another day if I can about why some public chargers are a lot heavier than others. But yeah, I promised I'm not going down the charging station route. This is an exception to a problem that hasn't been solved yet. The charging stations have been solved. And you talked a bit about council approval. How's that going to work, do you think?
Yeah, so we're currently rolling out under a trial in Merribeck, which is the old Moreland City Council in the north of Melbourne. We've rolled out a bunch within that trial. I think we're up to a dozen or so actually deployed and in operation. We were covered in the media in Domain just a few days ago, and that generated lots of interest. That trial is 20 or 30 units, and we're going to be rolling out more in that trial over the course of the next month or two.
Brilliant.
The plans for expansion, obviously, this is a solution that would work for many, many people living particularly in Melbourne or Sydney, where this housing mode is pretty common. Within local government have responsibility for managing the footpath environment. And so the need, if a business wants to do this kind of thing properly, legitimately, under the established rules framework, is to engage with local government to develop a process. Within local government, you've got lots and lots of stakeholders that have views on this kind of thing. So the sustainability team, the transport team, planning, heritage, arborists, risk, legal, media, PR, lots of folks within a local government are all keen to express a view and shape what that process might look like.
Yeah.
And that's, I would suggest, the reason why you haven't seen this sort of thing as widely as might otherwise have been the case.
Yeah, and you're coming up with this day to day, but as you said, I think the key point I grasp from what you said is that it's got to be driven by the owners, by the homeowners, and the car owners. They've got to push the council for the demand to get this sort of thing. So yeah, that's the best way to get their ears open, right? Is to start making some noise if you're interested in this sort of thing. Is that's your perception? Yeah.
Yeah, look, so what I'd say is we are planning to expand into other local government areas where we can. If a person listening to this feels that this might be a solution that's relevant to them, on our website, there's a spot where you can put in your details so that we can reach out to you as and when we are expanding into your local government area. Filling that out helps us identify where we actually have likely demand and helps us in our engagement with local governments to say, we've got people who want this. It definitely works. It's been trialled here. We've got happy people using it. Can we please have permission? The call out there is I can see you've put your About Us there. If people jump at the website,
I've just learned how to put comments onto the screen by accident. So Mrs. Amazing put your website up there. So that's the details are there on the screen at the moment. So just by a curious accident, I've just learned how to put comments up. So that happens to be your website. But no, the Inner West Council are probably closest here in Sydney. Is that part of your research? Same sort of conclusion. They've looked at different solutions and have got some approval processes for across footpath solutions. I think Sarah Aubrey and Nero Bart have done a lot of work on that over the last 12 months, 18 months with them, and I still think they've got a trial process in place. So yeah, they are one of the most open because they've got, apart from perhaps Wallara and a couple of others, but Paddington, they've got a large number of properties and houses as well. But I've also seen on Facebook there's been a couple of discussions and people have chipped in and said we've got one. So there are people who are using it. They're out there, aren't they? They're in the marketplace. They're getting done and they're working. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So feedback we've had from customers has been uniformly great. Not surprising. It's a simple machine. Does what it says on the tin. These are people who otherwise would be charging their EVs at public charges pretty regularly, rather than having the convenience and the ease of charging at home. I mean, look, and this is not to throw shade on public charges. We absolutely have to have public charges, but the level of convenience that 3/4 of the population already enjoy of being able to charge at home makes a huge difference in people's willingness to take on an EV as their daily driver. The way we like to express it is that public chargers are kind of like public toilets. When you need them, you really need them. But it's nicer to go at home if it's a choice.
You're gonna get quoted on that. That's coming out as a short on social media. I'd like you to say it again without me.
Stir them up.
Say it again without me laughing halfway through. We're just so that I can get it clearly.
Sure. So without any disrespect to the public charging operators, public charging is kind of like a public toilet. When you need it, you absolutely need it, but it's nicer to go at home.
Yeah, exactly. Well said, Ross. I absolutely concur. Hey, are there any other ideas that you've got ticking away in the background without giving anything away?
Yeah, sure. So this is VCS1, cunningly named VCS1 in order to make room for VCS2, 3, and so forth. We're not geniuses at coming up with names of things.
Okay.
So VCS2 is, coming along well. You can expect to hear more about that in the fairly near future. And it's been developed based on feedback we've had to the VCS1. So feedback we've had has included, we love the concept, works really well, but it's pretty big, pretty obvious, pretty out there. We'd like something that folds away when it's not in use.
Okay.
We've also heard that people say that they'd like it to be slimmer line in design, so it's not as visible when it's in use. And so that kind of thing has fed into the development of our next product. So the next product, VCS2, does very much the same thing, lets you bridge across the footpath from your front fence. but it can be folded down easily by one person when you're not using it. So that's kind of the journey we've been on, is roll out the first product, get some runs on board with the trial, learn what we need to learn, get all the feedback around what the product needs to look like, what the process needs to look like, and then improve the product over time.
Yeah. I'm not one to make jokes about people's products, innovative products, but seriously, has anyone asked, can I vacuum my car? Can I use the extension cord to vacuum my car? Anything strange along those sorts of lines? Mm.
We haven't had that. I mean, look, there's no reason you couldn't, right? The boom doesn't care what kind of power cable you run down it. Run an extension lead down it, sure. We've had people look at it and say, this could be used for a caravan. Yeah, it could.
Yeah.
If you wanted to put your caravan in parked on the street, you could do that. We've had people ask about running it for fast charging. And again, the boom arrangement doesn't care if you want to run a 100 kilowatt fast charging cable down it. Brilliant. You just need a cable that's long enough and enough counterweight to lift the other end. We have had lots of interesting discussions around how else could it be used? What else? Brilliant. What are the edges that you could push it to in order to establish other use cases?
I look forward to what's coming next after VCS1, but that's great, and wish you all the best with that. But I wanted to cover another one of your initiatives as well, which I'm getting involved in and have been a bit slow to get involved in, and that's the EV meetups. And I think we both agree that it's a small industry. It's growing still quickly. There's ups and downs. It's never going to be smooth sailing, but getting together as business owners or EV enthusiasts and people with vested interest is a really important part. And you've come to the party here. Tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So these came about at around about the time that I finished up at the Electric Vehicle Council. Ed Lynch-Bell, who was at EV Networks and before that was at AGL, he'd finished up at EV Networks at around about the same time. Yeah. So we sat down for a cup of coffee at his co-working space over in Richmond and got to talking. And one of the points we landed on was that our industry participants needed to be coming together more often in order to break down the silos between them. Because from an industry perspective, we have people who manufacture equipment, we have people who run networks, we have people who run retail businesses, we have people who sell cars for a living, we have all sorts of stakeholders across the spectrum who don't necessarily talk to each other all that much because they're not in day-to-day arrangements, they're not in the same, they're not next door to each other in supply chains.
No.
But to the extent that industry and government and academia talk to each other more, it becomes easier for useful things to happen. Yeah. And we looked at each other and thought, well, who's going to do this? Who's going to make this happen? And then we kind of looked at the mirror and said, well, okay, that would be us. We're the logical people to do this. And so we started doing it. So the way an EV meetup works is we hit up one corporate sponsor for, can you please provide us a place to do it in? We hit up someone else for, can you please cover the cost of some nibblies and some non-alcoholic drinks? In the Sydney one that's coming up, we're inviting startups to exhibit in the space as well. We did that last time in Sydney, and we had 5 startups come along with pull-up banners and samples to show off what they're doing. And it's really good. It's a night where 100-odd people come along. There's some interesting short talks, so 4 or 5 minutes each. At the coming one, New South Wales government are going to lead us off, giving us an update of what they're up to. We'll hear from Nika. We're going to hear from Toby Roxburgh about the EV Centre of Excellence in Canberra. Nadoka from Climate Kick, and from ABB, who are one of the bigger fast charging equipment suppliers in the market. Brilliant. So a cross-section of people who are in the space and doing things to provide updates on what they're up to and what they're doing. But importantly, a couple of hours where 100 people from industry can talk to each other, swap business cards, work out what they're doing next. This will be the 9th one that we're doing. We did 7 last year. We did one in Melbourne a couple of go at NTRO, and now we're back to Sydney in March 5th.
And this one was cunningly designed to be the week, a couple of days before Everything Electric, unfortunately, which is now no longer taking place. But that's why I'm more than happy to promote it and get involved because, it would have been nice with the lead up to Everything Electric. But, that's life. And on that point, Everything Electric is a great opportunity, if nothing else, to bring everyone together under the same house and in the same church at the same time, looking at each other and going, hey, we're in this together. And this is why I applaud your efforts here because, again, we need more things like this to do that for people to bring them together to say, hey, this is only the start of the journey. Conversations we've had before. This is that we're just at the start of a long, long journey that's going to have lots of ups and downs. So we need each other's support, and well done. I appreciate it. So any plans to take this other parts of Australia?
Yeah. So last year we did, let me see, we did a couple in Melbourne, a couple in Sydney, one in Adelaide, one in Canberra. This year we'll do a couple in Melbourne, a couple in Sydney, we'll do one in Brisbane, we'll do one in Hobart. Doing more than about half a dozen of these a year is perhaps a bit more than Ed and I can manage by ourselves because we're running our own businesses at the same time. This is kind of an adjunct.
Yeah, no, it's a full time.
It's a useful thing to do. What I would say is anyone who's in the industry who wants to pick up this model and run with it, we are not precious. If someone else would like to start doing these, please give me a call. I'll let you know what the playbook is. You can start doing them. We don't have anything remotely like a monopoly on this idea. We'd love other people in cities to start running them. It works. I mean, even if you only pull together 20 or 30 people over a beer and a pizza, it's useful because those conversations that happen in that setting let businesses and government swap ideas and make useful forward progress together.
Yeah, and I know the team from Everything Electric, despite not proceeding with this, next month's show, they're very keen to get involved in this industry here and help to push it along, taking their learnings from overseas as well, and try and create more collective industry meeting and togetherness to try and promote the industry. So, hey Ross, anything else you'd like to add in terms of what's coming up next? Or you?
No, just looking forward to seeing you next Thursday night, mate. Yeah. Thank you very much for having me on the show. And anyone who'd like to come along, I think the links are in the comments from Roscoe. So much appreciated. Enjoy your evening. Congratulations on everything you've achieved with the new business. And look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Ross. Okay. So that was Ross De Rango, a good friend of ours, and just bloody good guy. He's been in this industry for a long time now, but been promoting it in the ways that really made a difference. Great to see him out producing a product in Australia and selling it and working with locals. 1 in 20, I think he said, was the number of properties in Australia that don't have off-street parking or aren't going to make it simple. So the market's there. If you need it or you want it, get in touch with Ross. We've got no financial affiliation on this one either. Didn't put it up front. Happy to put it behind. He's just a good guy with a good product and a good solution that we're happy to talk to EV owners about, and don't normally touch on charges, but thought this was worth bringing to you, as well as the EV meetups. Also, we've got our breaking EV news. We've got some cars from that inner city genre as well tonight. We've got some mail in the inbox, and I want to show you a couple of other solutions as well that I found. Like all these things, every time I start doing some research on some of these ideas, I find some other great ideas I want to share with you as well. So thanks for being here. Let's get straight into it with... There's some breaking EV news this week, and by now it's out of the box. It's Car of the Year. Drive's Car of the Year was judged from, maybe over 50 cars. Don't ask me why they can judge the 2026 Car of the Year already. Just like the fact that, there's probably half a dozen EVs I can see in the front row of that photo. Love the fact that Drive, one of the notable publications and YouTubers out there, have got so many EVs front and center. James Ward, director of content there, they've put some great packages together about the process. We love the Car of the Year. We've done quite a bit of work and followed this closely here and around the world because it means a lot. It means a lot to the winners. It means a lot to the public. It means a lot to the used EV buyer as well. And we don't normally cover new car news, but in this case, we know that the winner is going to have a big impact. And probably by now, it's no secret. You've probably already seen, it's been out in the news, that the Tesla Model Y has been judged by, out of all those cars, all those EVs, the 2026 Car of the Year by Drive. And look, I think this is big news because the Tesla's been through some ups and downs. It's certainly been a tough year. Model Y came out about a year ago now and has, as most of you have seen, led the way in terms of full self-driving. Could be a novelty, could be the part of the future, but they judged it their Car of the Year for the amazing improvements, the incredible way it drives, ease of use, and of course the FSD. And it seemed to be a natural choice for them. It wasn't that hard, but
Still surprising that Tesla's car of the year. Still surprising that that this, out of all those cars in this day and age, well, congratulations. That's all we can say. Congratulations, Tesla and Tesla Model Y, for being 2026 car of the year. And we feel great because no doubt lots of people are going to rush out now and buy new Tesla Model Ys. Then, look, they might even have to sell their old ones. Suddenly there's going to be a whole lot of old Model Ys on the used EV market. And we've actually seen a bit of a tick up of Model Ys in the last 6 weeks, 2 months or so, as people are starting to take delivery late last year. Numbers were down a bit in January of new Model Ys, as you may have seen, but certainly there's a lot more Model Ys on the market and some great deals out there. But congratulations to Tesla Model Y and Tesla. There's some much needed great news. And I think on the horizon, there's a couple of other bits of news about the whole range coming soon. So full declaration, we're Tesla Model Y owners, Mark 1, no intention of upgrading this time. We love the Tesla Model Y. Just ticked over 100,000 Ks. And don't forget, by the way, go back and have a look at last week where we had our Model Y in the workshop after 100,000 Ks. Hardly anything to do. We had our mechanic Ed look at it and part of a series that was, a real eye-opener for me. I hadn't done anything, virtually nothing in terms of maintenance for 100,000 Ks. And suddenly we had it up there. There was a few bits and pieces probably time to take a look at, apart from tyres and filters. But take a look at that episode last week because we had a lot of fun in the workshop. Ed was brilliant. Can't wait to go back and see him again and catch up and drill down on a few of those things that we found, particularly in the suspension. I'm going to get some bits and pieces done and we'll bring that to you as well. So no affiliation with Tesla apart from congratulations and well done. Then perhaps on not so good news, but still important, I think, and we'll start bringing this to you as well, is pretty major recall on the Volvo EX30, one of our favourite inner city cars, as a matter of fact, one of the ones we've had a look at as a great little subcompact in that sort of 4.3 metre range, beautifully equipped, lovely style. It's had a recall, which you might have seen a month ago in Australia. There was a notice came out and it was posted here. This one just came up on Reuters yesterday, so perhaps the other one slipped through the radar a bit. This one front and centre on news right across the US, and 40,000 they've sold, 40,000 EX30s they've sold affected by this. Looks like it's the two motor long range and performance versions. But this you'll see front and center, and we want to bring these recalls to you. It's part of the EV ownership, part of owning a used car is this sort of information, which sometimes does slip through the cracks a bit. They're going to send out notifications for any one of you who might own an EX30. Haven't seen anything detrimental on values yet. Hopefully it's an easy fix in terms of battery, or if it isn't, it's an expensive fix. But either way, they're going to be in touch. They'll look after you. This was on a register in Australia, and you can go to this as a public government register here for vehicle recalls. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this particular one. I think it suggests that probably around there's about 2,800 odd cars are involved with the recall here in Australia. So perhaps that covers all that was sold. I'm impressed with the number that they've sold that many in 2 or 3 years. Nice to see, but this was on the site and covered by a little bit of media. The Driven covered this one as well a month or so ago. So not brand new news, but Reuters took this global. So there might be some backlash about batteries and fires and all sorts of things once again. But we're going to bring you a bit more information from this site because it's important to understand when recalls. And look, if you drill down brand by brand, you'll see most of you that the Tesla recalls are pretty much all software related and software fixes. Some of them, and we're not downplaying how serious this one is about battery and battery potential fires. But some brands are a lot worse than others. It's worth taking a look at this recall site because it's very interesting. But we'll focus on the used EVs as used EV owners. Important information that we want to try and get out to you. So really, really interesting in terms of what we found on the recall side of things, and we'll bring you more about that as well. We want to take you now to AmazingEV, of course, our dedicated used EV marketplace. that's what our main business is, selling and helping people sell and buy used EVs. And there's a link down below if you want to list. It's $29.95 normally, but there's a link to list for free down in the description below. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight, just briefly from sunny Perth. It's beautiful over there. And thanks, Stan, for joining us from Kangaroo Island. So we've got South Australia, we've got WA covered, we've got New South Wales covered. So thanks for joining us, guys. Love to see you tuning in. If you've got any questions from last week about Ed, we're going to put those to him as we go along. But drilling down, we thought, well, we're looking at cars and EV owners that don't have a driveway, are looking for solutions to park on the street. Perhaps they're looking for more inner city cars. So we thought, well, let's have a look and see what we've got on the AmazingEV website for more compact inner city cars this week. Something that you might be able to be comfortable actually parking on the street. Maybe it's going to, well, you don't want to spend too much on it maybe, but it is a bit tougher parking on the street in Sydney. But let's jump into the AmazingEV website, the marketplace, and this incredible Volvo came onto the market this week. XC40 was a great little EV. Again, we just talked about the Volvo EX30. This one predated that by a couple of years. Almost, it's been a great seller. I'm really surprised how many of these were selling in the last couple of years, and much forgotten. Polestars get mentioned, Teslas get mentioned, BYDs get mentioned. This one didn't get quite as much mention, but it's just ticked along in the background. You might recognize that name, Daniel, if you haven't. Previous shows, Daniel sold one of the first EV utes we've ever seen on the market here through AmazingEV. He sold that, decided to buy this a couple of weeks ago. All of a sudden, his circumstances changed. He's got to go overseas for work, and suddenly this one's on the marketplace. So ideally, I see this here as a great inner city car. Someone who's looking maybe just ticking around town, wants something easy to park. This one's the long range version. It's a couple of years old now. He bought it off a Volvo dealer, I think, or a Polestar dealer in Penrith in Sydney. And it's only done 24,500 Ks, 3 years old now, so hardly driven. All-wheel drive. This has got all incredible performance, but incredible range as well. This one you could easily get and charge it up, drive straight to Canberra, charge it up, turn around and come back again. So ideal for those smaller trips, but maybe within the country trip from time to time. So if that sounds like you, this would be a great car to consider, because these are still brilliant cars. Have loved these, and again, probably not quite rated as much as some of the other cars out there in terms of popularity or notoriety. EX30 has been in parallel with this one, but still love this one, and great option, I think. We also like this one here, this Nissan Leaf still, and this one's up near Byron Bay. So anyone up near Suffolk Park near Byron Bay, this was a fantastic, inner city car, small trips, ranges is poorly, of course, but this is one of the good car companies. So it's better than average. This wasn't one of the Nissan official. This was a grey import, but some of you might remember the Good Car Company did some great work bringing out cars straight from Japan for a while. Top-notch quality cars, great reputation, those cars. This one, again, first EV buyer, if you want to get into it, and you'd love for less than 10 grand now, if you want to get into an EV, this is perfect. Down the shops. The inside reminds me a bit of a 1990s Toyota Corolla, but basic, simple, no-nonsense car, easy, just something to just drive down to the shops. If that's all you need, and you want an EV, this is the easy car to choose. You're going to get another few years out of this easily. Battery checks are available, finance is available. But again, this brilliant first car for anyone, any younger person looking for, anyone, older person, younger person looking for an EV. This would be a fantastic car. So still looking for a buyer for this one. And then, of course, the ultimate city car. We've got a couple of these now since we saw this on the Redriven. They weren't incredibly enthusiastic about it for a start, but and it's very polarizing, the BMW i3. 10 years old now, 12 years old. Again, battery, probably 120 Ks of range, just for the shops and back around town. Park it in a postage stamp, just park it sideways, park it anywhere. No problem getting into shopping centres. Love these cars, just pure BMW style, way ahead of its time. Just incredible style. I love these cars. A lot of people just don't seem to like the styling of them. I love it. I think it's really fun, really cool. I think we'd just have one just to tinker up to the shops around the corner. Brilliant little car, easy to park, easy to get in and out of, very upright SUV style. You know what I'm talking about? Just an easy car to get in and out of, and an easy car to drive. So love this. I know it's got its haters. I know it might be overkill. BMW's copped it a bit, but I love these cars, and I think it's going to make a brilliant car. Again, get a battery check. Make sure you can get that 120 k's of range but this one again, it's been really well looked after. Chatted to the owner a couple of times. Brilliant car. So there's one other guy that I wanted to introduce tonight who's also just bought another used EV, and that's of course our friend Nathan from Test EV, the battery testing guys. And no, he's not sponsoring us yet either. No sponsors yet. If you're interested, happy to have a chat. But Nathan, I think you drove down somehow you ended up in Sydney, bought a car, then ended up driving back again, right? So is that's what I hear. Yeah, I'm just going to find this car because it's a curious one. And it's one of my favourites too. It is one of my favourites. And
I'll let you introduce it.
And Mrs. Amazing's favourite.
This is the best road tripping EV. This is the best two-person road tripping EV. This is the best blue two-seat road tripping EV. This is the best blue Italian two-person road tripping EV. Yes.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Tell me how this came about. This is a used EV, right?
Well, it is a used EV. It's pretty new, but it is used. When I picked it up, it had 2,000 kilometers on the clock, so pretty underused, and it was about 2 years old. I understand it was sold and it was kept by a family, and then it was traded in on an Xpeng, Xiaopeng. And that's where I bought it from, Xiaopeng in Parramatta. And I live in Brisbane. So there was a little bit of work to go to get to it, and hence the road trip.
You can catch that on Nathan's socials as well. I grabbed that. Look, this is absolutely brilliant. Tell me a bit about the trip. How did it end up in practice?
Yeah, look, it was pretty good. I took my son, so it was a bit of a two-person road trip, and hence the two-person road tripping car. I pretty much exclusively used the Tesla network, and using all those open to non-Tesla sites up and down the coast, and it ended up taking basically 6 full charges along the way. I stopped just south of Newcastle where my parents live, and so charged up there for the first stop, if you like, and then beyond that it was 5 stops. I did try to push it all the way from New Italy, where you can take a picture there, all the way to my place in Brisbane, and we came up 20 k's short. So we pulled in at 3% to the Springwood charger, and then we gave it a little squirt so we could get home.
Well, this has got a range of 200-ish, flat out.
Yeah, that stint that we did, and we're doing fast speeds and so on. We did cop a bit of traffic, but all through the Gold Coast, northern New South Wales and so on, we did about 220 kilometres on that particular stint, and that was about a 90% depth of discharge. So we used 90% of the battery to do that work.
And what made you choose this one? I love it. Like, I know this is not a polarizing little car, but this is our favorite. We love the non-Abarth version, and I just love this as well.
It's not my first small EV rodeo. So I imported the only Honda E to Queensland, and the first and only Honda E to Queensland, and there's about 7 or 8 in the whole of Australia. And so I'm a big Honda E fan, and that's an amazing little car. Goodness knows, I don't know why we didn't get that from Honda in Australia. But this was always on the radar, and because of Test EV and Avalu's colours in the cyan blue, and I'm looking for a car to go to shows with and to do promotional work with, it looks perfect for it. So that's where it's going to turn out to be. It's going to be our little show car and our little demo car for demonstrating testing.
Yeah, that's right. And just reminding everyone that Nathan owns the EV testing company that we support and love to see. It's backed and powered by Avalou. So again, we'll put some details down below. But yeah, of course, did you get a battery test on it? Yeah.
Well, as soon as I arrived to pick it up there with the red bow, what's the first thing that you got to do? You got to test it. Now, I didn't test it beforehand. I did take a bit of a punt, and that's always a potentially dangerous thing to do. But this is the test from that first round. Not too bad.
About what you'd expect. I mean, from a almost brand new car. But again, this drills a bit further down into the battery health as well, generally. So good to get a snapshot.
That's right. So most of the battery's still there, only sort of a 1% degradation. It's about average for a car of this kilometres and age. The rest of the health factors on the second page are looking good and healthy, cell balances and so on. And so, that's sort of the beginning health check before we go on and spend our time with this little vehicle.
I know, that's fantastic. We'll drill down, get you back and drill down into what some of these battery tests means, just so people understand how deep it goes in terms of battery health and battery composition, and right down to the cell level, so they get an understanding. Also, relativity, I think, is an important factor as well compared to the rest of the market. But maybe it doesn't make sense to buy a new or almost new car and get a battery check, but it doesn't hurt if it's been sitting around for a couple of years, or I mean, if it seems low Ks, it's been a slow seller, right?
And there are a few EVs in the marketplace that are in that sort of used space, but they've got very low Ks. So they may be a couple of years old now. I'm thinking like Ford Mark-Es. I'm thinking about like these little Fiats. Great little cars, fantastic. Probably started life at a price too high in the marketplace. They've now started to find their right pricing, and they're starting to find customers. But one of the things that can kill batteries is sitting too long, unloved, not charged up or overcharged. And so that's always an important thing to know what you're starting with.
So there's a bit of potential degradation from lack of use as well.
Or incorrect storage. Let's call it that.
Okay. Hey, thanks, Nathan. Congratulations. What a fantastic one. Last look at it. I know, they're so cute. It's so
Well, I just got to go away and edit the whole road trip video, so look out for that when it comes through.
You look like a very proud father in that photo. That's my relatives in Perth are yelling out the correct pronunciation for this car in Italy, so I can't hear them back down the line, but I can't.
It's a bath.
The 500 part. Thanks, Nathan. Hey, good to see you again. We'll catch you soon.
You too.
Thanks, Nathan. Hey, look, that's fantastic to see. I love those cars, and I mean, it makes a lot of sense. People, again, have dismissed those, but again, they're going to come on the second-hand market. I think they've discontinued them overseas, but it's a pity because I think the ones that are going to be here, and we might be able to get our hands on one day and have a tinker around. Good client of mine bought one. But now it's time to get tight tonight with a couple of guests. But again, harking back to last week, we had a fantastic time at the workshop. We had a mechanic, Ed, part of a Tesla-approved workshop, not part of Tesla, but a Tesla-approved workshop. And we had my 100-kilometre, 100K, 100,000K Tesla Model Y up on the ramp, and had started to have a poke around. Tyres are the only thing I'm worried about. I was worried that I'd done virtually nothing to service this car. And I knew there wasn't a lot to do and the warnings would come up. But there was a couple of things we found. Interesting, some debate that came out of it online in YouTube, and I won't read this out, but the crux of the brakes was very interesting because Ed said there's no doubt the brakes can go as high as 250,000 Ks without, and that's just unheard of compared to a normal petrol car. Brakes, discs on cars I've had 30, 40,000, both the pads and the discs needed to be replaced. The wear on the disc and the wear on subsequent wear on the wear on the pads and the subsequent wear on the disc. And we checked the Model Y at 100,000 and barely anything on the lip, just nothing at all on the lip, just almost completely smooth. And the pads were 98%. So Ed made the comment that perhaps there was potential on a Tesla in particular for the Model Y and Model 3, that because the handbrake is activating every time it stops and auto braking, there's potential for more wear on the rear brakes. Maybe not a lot more, but just potentially slightly more, which is totally the opposite from a normal car. So this viewer said, if the brakes wear quicker on the rear, does that mean the handbrake isn't fully disengaged when you release the handbrake? The handbrake only engages when the vehicle is not in motion. It disengages before you put it in motion. If it causes the premature wear, then it's not fully engaging. Do Teslas even have handbrakes? So, yeah, lots of questions here, lots of information. Tesla does not have a handbrake. There's no button. There's no handle, no lever. When you stop, it goes. You hear a little click, and it just automatically works. And I've had a situation where some of the controls on the car were lost momentarily when it shut down just to keep the car safe, and driving the car without the auto handbrake is very, very strange. So you don't realize how much it's turning on and off all the time automatically behind the scenes. So there's no handbrake lever, there's no button, there's no foot pedal. It's just every time you stop the handbrake. So that could be 40 or 50 times a day. And so you just get that slight little disconnect, as I pointed out, between the car moving and the discs and the disc brakes, the rear disc, and this is on the rear disc brakes, not on the front. So every time it moves, every time you restart, there's a bit of disconnect, fractional disconnect between the disengagement and the movement. So that was my explanation, thanks to Ed, for why potentially the rear discs might wear out quicker. Life's Mechanic came back to me and goes, AmazingEV, oh damn, I learned something new. So that's gave me more satisfaction than anything else. Long story, convoluted story, detailed story about the life and positive life of EV brakes, particularly on Teslas. Worth checking still, but why potentially the rear ones might wear out slightly quicker, but still give you a couple of 100,000, at least 4, 5, 6 times longer than a normal ICE car. So great story, and that was a message I really appreciated. And nice feedback and nice comeback from the guy himself, who wasn't, maybe had some mechanical experience, but maybe didn't know as much about Teslas. Look forward to seeing you next time. That's it for tonight. We might have a show for you before next Wednesday night, where we're going to start having a cruise around some of the marketplaces and look at some of the cars in more detail. Keep an eye out, because I'll put it on the schedule for YouTube in the next few days. I'm Roscoe. Look forward to seeing you next week, and I'll leave you with cruising around the AmazingEV site. Don't forget, you can subscribe. You can subscribe to this channel. You can list an AmazingEV with a link down for free. We want to see you when I help you sell your car. Take a look around. I'm Roscoe, and we'll see you next time. Can we do